Hi everyone, George here, and today I thought I would bring to you another tax video, and this is educational. So again, the common caveats is, well, one, I work for UFAL, two, I'm not an accountant or a CPA or a lawyer, um, and this is not meant to be tax advice. You should do some research on your own after viewing this video so you can enrich your knowledge in tax. So it's not meant to be advice at all. And the views expressed in this video are my own, they're not my employer's. So with that said, let's get on with the show. So in this case, I want to bring to your attention a, um, a tax return for a single young lady that lives in New Brunswick. It could have been anywhere in Canada. What I'm about to say holds true for all the provinces in Canada, especially Quebec. But we want to highlight every region of our vast country and give it some praise. So that's what we're going to do for now. And she lives alone in 1234 My Street. And to get on with the story, basically all she had was a T4 with $16,800 in income. I'm not sure if you can see that better. Okay, she had proper deductions at source. She had $2,100 of tax deducted at source, and all her income was subject to Canada Pension Plan and EI. Canada Pension Plan contributions and EI premiums. She did all the proper withholding. Apart from that, she has a very chronic illness. Although she's not disabled, she does spend a lot of money on medical expenses. So as you can see here, she spent throughout 2021 $5,000 of medical expenses. So if you're a type 1 diabetic, I think you know what I mean. And if you have some other complications, yeah, national health care is different than national drug insurance. So here we got 5,000 bucks. So what is that going to give us ultimately? Let's take a look at her return. Take a quick look at her return. By the way, Lucy Fournier with social insurance number 111111118 is a completely fictitious person, bears no resemblance to any living person. And any resemblance is purely uh, coincidental. All right, so here we have her federal T1. By the way, this is not ultimately the form that you would send in. It would be the condensed, but the condensed is meant to be read by a barcode reader. So we typically consult and review the return on the actual, on the good old 8-page jacket, as we like to call it. So she's single. That's her identification section there. As we said before, she had only a simple T4 with $16,800 of employment earnings. Nothing spectacular, nothing to brag about. She's a working poor person, so that will give her some credits, and that's important. This is an enhanced contribution to the Canada Pension Plan, which counts as a deduction, by the way. So after it's all said and done, she should not pay tax. So as you can see here, her ultimately her non-refundable credits amount to $3,062 by doing this simple calculation here. The basic amount plus her CPP contributions or EI premiums and the Canada employment amount add up to $15,920. Take 15% of that. I'm lying. First, before you get to that 15% of the 15,920, you take the $5,000, which is her medical expenses, subtract 3% of her net income, 502, and you add to the 5,920, 4,497, you get 20,418, and she's taxable at 15%. Her non-refundable tax credits are at 15%. Her non-refundable tax credits exceed her income, therefore she doesn't pay any tax, either federally or provincially, for that matter. We'll double check that. As you can see, what I told you is true. On line 406, her federal tax is zero, and we shall soon see that her provincial tax is zero. And how do I know that? Well, if you take a look at her New Brunswick 428, that's her tax. She's taxed on 9,040 at 9.4%. Her basic amount is $10,564, and she has medical expenses right here. So her non-refundable tax credits are $1,496. She actually does have a bit of tax 77.29, but then she's also entitled to the New Brunswick low income tax reduction, which wipes out her tax to zero. There you go. Okay, with that said, she's entitled to all her non-refundable tax credits, which was $2,100. Where did I get that? It's an amount that I made up, and she could have very well had $2,100 deducted at source on her employment earnings for one reason or another. All right, moving rather along, go back to her refund. Let's analyze her refund. So she has $2,100 deducted at source. Even if she had less, she would get it back because her tax is zero. Secondly, she has a refundable medical expense supplement in the amount of $1,124. If we double click here, it should take us to the work chart to calculate how this is done. And on page 2 of the federal worksheet, that explains how they get the refundable credit for medical expenses. Secondly, she gets the Canada Workers Benefit that was introduced a long time ago with the advent of the Brian Mulroney government, the famous Schedule 6. It has been around for that long, and the only thing has changed are the indexation of the amounts, and quite recently, the federal Liberal government upped that amount quite substantially. So $1,395 of that credit. And if we double click on that, it'll take us to Schedule 6, and it shows how the amount is calculated. For the first time last year, you were also able to deduct up to $14,000 of your spouse's income from this calculation, as you can see somewhere on here. And then, when you do this calculation, given all the conditions are true, you get $1,395. So all in all, we came up to a generous refund of $4,619.45. So, time to celebrate? Well, I don't think so. So, this is the point of this presentation, which is quite, for lack of a better word, perhaps ironic. I'm sure that's not the proper word, but quite often than not, you have people promising you the best refund possible. Nobody wants to hear about a balance due. And from a marketing standpoint, or from a psychological standpoint, who wants to take money out of their pocket and give it to the government? Nobody, right? But I have news for you. This isn't the ideal situation you want to be in, especially in an inflationary environment. More about that later. Now, let me explain to you why you don't want to be in that situation. Now, it could be obvious from the point of view that if you do have $5,000 worth of medical expenses, all this refund does is buys you another year of medical up to perhaps around 92% of your medical expenses, right? Providing the amounts have not been indexed or increased due to inflation. So let's analyze this. So we spoke about refund, we spoke about balance due. And those are what I'd like to describe as the symptoms. You get the news that you have a refund, you're all delighted, or if you have a balance due, you are not so delighted, you're upset, and you ask yourself, why am I in this predicament? And let's look at the causes to find out why you really don't want to be in either situation. So the cause of a refund more often than not is there's too much deducted at source throughout the year. So this is what happened to our taxpayer in this case. She did not need $2,100 deducted at source and tax on her employment earnings. She paid that throughout the year. So one of the reasons she has a refund is because she overpaid throughout the year. And that's money that she could have had in her pocket throughout the year to pay out-of-pocket expenses. Number two is refundable tax credits. In this case, if you recall, plural, S. If you recall, in this case, she had two refundable tax credits that came to her pocket. Boom, right there. She had the medical expense supplement plus the Canada Workers Benefit. So I ain't lying. Let's go back to our presentation here. And the third reason you could be in this predicament is because you're not taxable, but you pay tax throughout the year somewhere, somehow. Okay, now let's take a look at the opposite end of the spectrum, which is balanced due. Your accountant tells you you owe money. What happened to put you in this predicament? Three things can happen, at least three things. You underpaid throughout the year, which means you had more income in your pocket throughout the year. In this case, if our taxpayer had a lower refund, she could have very well have had $2,100 throughout the year in her pocket and did not have to wait until April 30th plus 2 weeks or however time it takes to get your refund back to recuperate this sum, which goes under the guise of a refund. The other reason you could be in a situation where you owe money is you simply did not have some basic deductions and tax credits. The most notorious are RSP, medical donations. You have to be wary of full-time tuition fees because being a full-time student can and may negate your eligibility for the Canada Workers Benefit. And the other reason is an improper investment mix. What do I mean by that is, look, when we eat, we like to have the main meal plus a side. You can have a salad, you can have a carb like a potato, French potato, French fries potatoes, or a poutine, plus your steak, or steak is pretty expensive these days, or a chicken leg with steak and sauce and coleslaw. I'm getting hungry. Oh well. Now, it's the same thing with investment income. With investment income, you have to be mindful of how much interest you make, what amount of dividends you make, and what amount of capital gains you make. You want growth and income all at the same token. Now, in terms of taxability, capital gains is the most favorable, followed by dividends, and then the least favorable is interest income. Now, so the ideal situation you want to be in is in equilibrium, zero. You owe nobody, and nobody owes you. Let's highlight that in green. Eeh, I don't like that particular green. Let's make it a darker green. Excuse me. Put it bold. Equilibrium is zero. Now, how do you get to equilibrium? Let's bold that, and let's also increase its size so we can see it more clearly. Forms used to reduce tax at source. First of all, you have the TD1. So let's take a look at the TD1. Now, here's the TD1. As you can see here, it says TD1. Let's see if we can increase that. And these are specific to your province. And basically what you do here is you declare what credits you're entitled to so they can reduce the amount of tax deducted at source. Now, this is for straightforward deductions and credits. Let's say you're in a particular situation where you'll do a sizable RSP contribution, or you're going to work abroad and you're going to have to pay taxes abroad. Then you go to a form called T1213. Yeah, so with T1213, you can claim additional deductions like RSP, childcare expenses, support payments, employment expenses, carrying charges, medical expenses. That's something that she could have done. Of course, if she did this, she would have gotten less taxes deducted at source, and she may have forfeited the refundable credit. because we're saying, okay, reduce my taxes at source because I'm going to get this amount of money. So everything will balance out. Clergy residents, foreign tax credit. Now, foreign tax credit is a very intermediate level topic and usually applies to middle class taxpayers that do have assignments abroad and are subject to taxes abroad. Okay? Foreign tax credit, RPP buyback, all these little conditions, if they hold true at any point during the year, okay, you can apply to the CRA for a reduction in your taxes deducted at source. It means more income up front for you, and you won't have to wait for that income at the end of the year. Of course, this is personal. Some people like to bank their funds with the CRA, and what does that do? It results in you losing any investment income that you can have, and any purchasing power. In today's inflationary environment, you're losing purchasing power with having tax banked to the government. Okay. Speaking of inflation, this is my personal opinion, and my personal opinion with respect to this is there's too much partisanship when it comes to this issue. I'm well aware that traditionally inflation is fought by higher interest rates, but I think the government, they can cooperate to be a little bit more creative in fighting this inflation that seems to be, it's not only the injection of cash by the present liberal government in terms of increasing our benefits and whatnot. It seems to be also driven by greed, I find. And by increasing the interest rates, nobody gets richer than the banking community. And it's a way that, you know, I'll be paying more in my mortgage and my personal loans to get by. And what did the banker do to get my my funds other than lend me money? Seriously, right? So yeah, you can blame the conservatives blame the liberals by injecting more cash into the economy. The liberals say, "Well, don't worry about it. We have your back," and the interest rates are going to take care of this issue. But I honestly believe there should be a more creative solution with respect to this issue, and they should be more proactive and more conscientious of not throwing us into a recession, especially right after a pandemic, especially when there's insecurity, worldwide insecurity, and a potential worldwide conflict in Europe that can escalate on any moment. That's my personal opinion. But in the meantime, if you want more cash in your pockets and you were in a refund position, I highly recommend that you talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant, review your return, take a look at the last page of your tax return, and ask yourself, is there some sort of money I can recuperate and put in my pocket now? And the solution to that dilemma is filling out these forms, either the T1213, I'll put a link in the description below, or the TD1. Be careful. You need if you're going to fill out the TD1, and if you haven't already done so, be careful to select the one for your particular province. With that said, I wish you all a great summer. And if I don't do another tax video between now and December, I'll see you guys during tax season. Take care.